Gogeta Blue, fusing Gogeta Blue. Blazing Azure combination, that's the name of the banner. That's one of the units that we've got for the 6th anniversary, and of course, Gogeta Blue is a big fan favorite. Went up against Broly in the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, and of course, beat him without a percentage of effort. On the other side, we've got Super Vegito, fusing Super Vegito, another big fan favorite from Dragon Ball Z. The Untouchable Ultimate Fusion, that's the name of the banner. Of course, he's got his Patara earrings and he uses his spirit sword, very beautiful animations, and we all love the yellow/golden hair. These are the two characters that the Dragon Ball Legends developers have decided to drop for the 6th anniversary. My name's Zakashi, guys, and in this video here, we are going to be ending the debate. Which unit is better, Gogeta Blue or Super Vegito? In the comment section below, let me know which side you're on. This is a very big debate right now, and of course, people have their preferences. You might already have your opinion, but maybe at the end of this video, your opinion might change depending on what I conclude based on logic and a full-scale analysis of what they can both provide to teams individually and helping you win a game in ranked PvP. It's quite insane that the developers have decided to drop two, not one, but two Fusion Warriors for the first part of the anniversary. We've never had anything like this before, so it's quite overwhelming to say the least. That's enough talking for this video. Let's get straight into this, man. So we're going to be doing a quick run through of their kits, starting with Gogeta Blue. This is a summary, so I'm not going to mention everything, just what I think are the key factors and things I should definitely bring up for the sake of the debate. So we got Gogeta Blue here. They're a fusing unit, and you know you have to build up towards the synchro in able to get them to transform into Gogeta Blue. So we have Goku Blue and Vegeta Blue before the transformation. They're a yellow unit on both sides, no reversal. The switch ability is important, which is also the main ability. So when you switch to Vegeta, you're able to get your vanish back 50%, and that happens twice, and that's twice for both Goku and Vegeta. You also get cover node from that, which is pretty good, of course, which activates twice, so you're able to actually capitalize from switching in between Goku and Vegeta. When you enter the battlefield as Goku, you're able to get a green card. You also destroy 2 of your enemy's blast cards, which might not seem that important, but it's very useful on the battlefield. If your health gets below 50% health, these things will happen. So you get the type neutral effects for damage sustained. You shorten your ally sub count by 10 so you can switch out straight away. You cancel attribute downgrades in abnormal conditions, and you reduce the enemy key by 70. Now this only applies once, and it's shared between the both of them. So if your health gets low below 50%, it doesn't matter if it goes up again then goes low again when you switch out to Vegeta or something, and then it goes low again. It would have just already activated. It can't activate again. Now on top of the synchro, you also have a unique gauge that when it fills, you're able to empty it, and when you empty it, you get certain buff effects that take place. So first of all, let's talk about when it fills. So when it fills, you'll randomly draw 1 card, you will get 30 key, and your synchro will actually go up by 25%. But then when you empty it, and the way to empty it is by using a strike, blast, or special move, you get these effects. So you get 50% damage inflicted for 2 time accounts, and you get a Dragon Ball which activates once. And then when the character's health is 50% or below, you'll get some healing on the sidelines, so when you're switched out. So you can see here, restores on health by 30%, activates once, and is shared between both of them. You also get some synchro, which is good as well, and that's also shared between both of them. And you buff your allies, so a little bit of support, also while reducing the enemy's Dragon Balls by 1. This is probably one of the biggest things. Using their green card, you're able to get your switch gauge 60% filled, which obviously helps you build towards your synchro when you tag out between the both of them. And then with the blue card, you can also fill the switch gauge 100%, but landing a blue card is obviously harder, but it's only once. So you press the blue card, you get 100%. You press the green card, you get 60%, but it's to your switch gauge, not the synchro, the switch gauge. And I think it's also good to note that the blue card, it's a close range type, so it has blast armor on it. In general, it's good to note that these guys are pretty much the same on both sides, and they both have strike cover changes. Going into Gogeta, he draws a blue card off of his main ability, he gains health from it and ki, and he fills his unique gauge by 100%. It's the same gauge as before, but the main thing is that he's able to get his vanish gauge 100%, so if you vanish and press your main, you'll fill that up completely. You also destroy all of your enemy's cards, which can be a big hindrance. After fusing, he's able to go type neutral for 15 time accounts against all damage sustained. When he enters the battlefield, he'll also go type neutral to all damage sustained for 15 time accounts, and this can happen 3 times. So on top of the fact that when he goes type neutral for fusing, he would also go type neutral every time he enters the battlefield for 3 times. He also just consistently destroys all of your blasts, like the enemies, which is really annoying. This is something good to note. Every time he uses an arts card, he'll be getting these effects. So for the first time, he's going to draw 1 new card. Then he will also heal, which activates once and gain 50 ki. But then here is where the good thing comes in, which is why a lot of people note that he's very tanky. He's able to reduce impact damage received by 50% for 5 time accounts. Now, if he does 4 cards, of course, course the 5 timer counts will be running down, but if he loses the next priority, so he gets hit, he'll be tanking a lot more for the first few cards that he takes on the receiving end. For the first time in the battlefield as well, he also just can't get hit by an explosive green. That's like super good to know. When he uses a strike or blast, he'll be changing all of his blast cards to strike. So that's the first time every time he switches in, so that you can abuse his ability, which I'll get into in a sec. Now, of course, the strike assault is what's the main thing about his kit. The strike assault allows him to ignore any counters or dodges that characters can do. So if you chain the strike art into another strike art, or a strike into anything else, so it chains is from usually a blast, or I don't think it chains from a green, it's usually only a blast or another strike, you're able to just ignore counters that activate when receiving an attack. So Ultra Gohan, Ultra UI, for example. He has a blast cover change, and for the rest of the kit, it's pretty much the same. For example, when he's working towards his gauge, he fills it, he gets some buffs over here. Then when he empties his gauge, he's going to get damage inflicted. He also goes type neutral for 2 timer counts. Then down here, when his health is 50% below and he switched to standby, he's still going to buff his allies. He shortens sub counts, he restores his health, and then he reduces the enemy Dragon Ball. His green card over here does charge his unique gauge though, that is good to note, and you can combo any card to it. You also draw a card from that, which is good. And then his blue card, I'd say the biggest thing from it, outside of the typical nullifying endurance and whatnot, he's able to shorten ally sub counts by 3. Next up, we got Vegito. They're blue. Starting with Vegeta, tag switching with them is super useful because you're able to get the cover null. That's 2 times for each side, but on top of that, you seal the enemy's special move, ultimates, and awakened arts. That's such a big inconvenience, I'm not going to lie, and they can't be used for 5 timer counts. It's much bigger impact than you might think. So every time this character tag switch, you're able to get 1 new card. You get key, you charge your own tag switch gauge by 20%. So for switching, you fill your switch gauge, which is insane. You also get damage inflicted, which cannot be cancelled, activates once, and you get strike and blast damage inflicted for 15 timer counts, which can be cancelled. Inflicts all enemies as you downgrade -1 level to draw speed. That's actually a bigger hindrance than you might think, because if you're trying to combo against these guys and they tag switch, and if they tag switch twice, that's 2 levels down. That's tough. This is something that's quite insane. If one person dies on the team, as in that's not Goku and Vegeta or Vegito, you will immediately get 100% to your synchro. So you can just transform immediately. And that's super useful because this unit will be gaining 100% health when they charge up using their synchro, so when they transform. If the enemy switches while this character's on the battlefield, you will draw a green card, which activates once, and you also get type neutral in total for 3 timer counts. So this is mainly meant to be used during a combo. If you're in a combo and they try to cover change, but you had cover null, you'll be getting type neutral for 3 timer counts, so you might want to chain cards for that period. When your health is 50% or below, you will destroy all of your enemies' cards, which is obviously useful. More than the key or anything like that, there's no like key reduction. You just destroy all of their cards. Their combo just gets stopped immediately. So unless they had like crazy draw speed, they won't be able to continue their combo. If you're hit with an ultimate, awakened arts, or rising rush, you will shorten your ally sub count by 5, allowing you to save the unit. Every time they tag switch, you'll be building towards their synchro so that you can transform into Super Vegito. And like I said earlier, you'll gain 100% health when you do transform into Super Vegito. So this character has a Dragon Ball gauge, and once your gauge pretty much fills, you'll be able to charge your synchro by 50%, so that's a big plus. And you also shorten your ally sub count. Once it fills once, you can't refill it. Just put that in mind. And then some extra buffs for the character. So if any of your other battle members get hit, they're getting hit with a combo, you'll be able to charge your own switch gauge by 10% every time they're hit with an art card. You also get 15% damage inflicted for 15 timer counts, and you also lower your cost. That's actually useful if you have a tanky like extra unit on the side, usually a revival unit or something. For example, Pycon or Bardock and Goku. Now the green card's my favorite part because it fills your switch gauge by 100%. Now both of these guys can easily get a green card, and let's just say you had a green card, you press the switch, you have a green card, you fill 100%, then you can switch again. If you had another green card, you can switch again. It's super useful filling 100% off the green, but the blue card doesn't fill anything regarding their switch gauge. It just draws you 2 cards if you have 3 or fewer, and you also get special move damage. But I guess it inflicts all the enemies with 3 sub counts, so it could be useful. It's also long range, which is good to note. Both of them. A lot of cases now we have close range blue cards, so just remember that both blue cards are long range. Goku is pretty much the same, so I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but just know they both have long range blue cards. This one's just a Destructo disc. I should have mentioned it in Gogeta's as well, but both these units have blast armor on every part of their kit, pre-transformation and post. Now getting into Vegito, we have here the overwhelming spirit of the strongest, his main ability. He draws a blue card from it, he's going to get key and health here, and he increases a Dragon Ball immediately, which is good to know. Now what I find insane is that he's going to get a Dragon Ball from just transforming. When he fuses, he's going to get 1 Dragon Ball, which is insane. He also just draws a random card from transforming, which is good to know. But with him drawing a card of transforming, he'll also draw a card from entering the battlefield. So when he enters the battlefield, he gets a card. So off transforming, you get 2 cards. He also restores his own ki by 20, and he literally stops the enemy from drawing cards faster, so -1 card draw speed. If the enemy switches while this character's on the battlefield, is a very big problem for you guys. You shouldn't switch if you're fighting Vegito, try not to, because he's going to increase his own draw speed, which allows him to combo longer. He's going to go type neutral for everything, not just damage sustained, and he's going to seal your special move and ultimates and awakened arts, and those can't be used for 5-time accounts. So it doesn't just mean for cover changes if they just switch in general. So even if you're comboing Vegito and you switch, you won't be able to use a blue ultimate or awakened arts. He slowly fills his vanishing gauge every time he draws a card, so it's going to be 10% every single time, and he'll get damage inflicted from drawing the card, which is obviously useful. Just like pre-transform, if they hit him with an ultimate, awakened, or a rush, he's going to lower the sub counts for his allies so you can save him. And this is going to be useful in a second, even more so if you don't already know. When he rising rushes, he's going to nullify his enemy endurance. This activates for 3 time accounts, but it's pretty much the whole time the rising rush is going on. It can be cancelled though. Now, the big thing about his kit, when he hits his rising rush, even if he loses the wager, so when you have to pick the cards, if he gets picked, he's still gonna have the rise and rush go through, but it will only do supreme damage. So it won't be a regular rise and rush, it will just be supreme damage, which is obviously important to note. If his gauge is full, even if it's before or after, as Vegito, I think the biggest thing to note is that every time he takes a card hit, he will literally have type neutral against any damage sustained only. That's super good to note, because then he will become somewhat more tanky against greens, and we all know Ultra Super Saiyan 2 Gohan is about. I think for the most part, everything is the same, except the fact that he's also able to buff his allies every time an enemy attack is over. Then at the bottom, I think one of the best things about his kit, every time he causes a character to revive, he's going to get 50% damage inflicted, but that only activates once, so it's not every time. But he will increase his Dragon Balls by 2, which happens every time, so that's good to know. Having you just get 2 Dragon Balls from taking out a revival character is insane. So he's basically a rising rush farmer. His green card gives him cover no, which is one of the biggest things to know, and he'll draw strike cards from it. And again, you seal the enemy's special move, ultimate, and awakened arts. You get damage inflicted, but it's kind of standard. But the big thing is that you get cover no from doing the green card, and it's a grab type. And then the blue card here, I think it's the fact that it shortens the ally sub counts by 3 and inflicts all enemies with 3 substitution counts, so you are able to switch out faster and you lock the enemy in, which is good to know. Now that we've gone through their kits, I'm going to give you an analysis of Gogeta Blue first, really just talking about how he actually works in the battlefield and the pros and cons. So a big con with the pre-transformation with Gogeta, I think it's harder to get to the synchro. This is really because the 100% fill comes from the blue card, and using a blue card comes with too many risks. For one, it ends your combo. Ending a combo is not something you want to do if you can avoid it, because the aim is to do damage to take out your opponent. If it was through the green card where you could get the 100%, that would obviously be good, because then you can just 100% switch out straight away. Or you only get 60% from the green card, so it still relies on you to do cards in a combo. Whereas on the other end, if it was 100%, it would at least easily allow me to just transform straight away. So it's not that it's hard, but it could have just easily been 100% on the green card. I don't really have any more cons pre-transformation. I think his pre-transformation is pretty good. It's all just really useful in comboing for a long time, especially with the way the gauge feels, and you're able to do a lot of damage when you empty that gauge too. Post-transformation, when you go to Gogeta Blue, of course, you have the Strike Assault where you're able to avoid any types of counters or gauges. For example, Ultra Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, he's a big pest, and if you're able to just chain the strike cards, you'll be able to avoid the fact that he's going to hit you with that. You don't want to get hit with that, you know, it's mad annoying. So him being able to avoid that, on top of Ultra UI being in the meta. Ultra UI would literally be dodging everything. You guys know how he works. If I'm able to just avoid that completely, that's obviously good for me. But there is cons with the Strike Assault chain. For example, you're not able to draw cards while you're doing that. Yes, you do draw cards for the first time you do a card, but outside of that, while you're Strike Assaulting, you're not drawing cards. And in most cases, I find that you won't be able to take somebody out if you do all 4 cards in a row. Now, I do understand you're not forced to do all the cards in a row, but it can hinder your combo potential in general, which is why I say it's a con. I think it would have been better if they gave you more cards to automatically draw when you actually do the Strike Assault. That way you wouldn't have to worry about drawing cards, and you can actually guarantee kills. It'll be a lot more powerful that way. Similar to like LF Vegito Blue, I believe he draws 2 or 3 cards when he just presses strikes, which is obviously important. Another con I have to say is that this guy can only get cover no post transformation from his Strike Assault. Cover no is so important nowadays. It's actually vital. Everyone's got a cover change. Some people have even worse stuff, you know, global cover changes, you know, and then not being able to avoid cover changes is a big hindrance to any playstyle. If your unit doesn't have cover no, you're gonna be one step behind in general. So I think that's a big setback. Now, one of the biggest things, and in my opinion is my favorite thing between both of the units, simply getting 100% vanish fill from your main ability is so perfect. It's so clean. Like, having 2 vanish steps is too cheesy. You're just vanishing and then you vanish again if you need to. If you didn't need to, you just get a second chance, which is just disgusting, man. I think that's so free in general for playstyles doing long combos. Super good, man. Especially with this guy who doesn't have long combos because you are meant to use his strike assault. It's super useful to just be able to get your vanish back and then do another combo because you can get a nice little PV, cheeky, perfect vanish, you know? Now let's go into the pros and cons for Vegito. Pre-transformation, I really like that his green card on both sides, Goku and Vegeta, it's able to give them 100% fill. There's so many times where I abuse this where I have 2 green cards in my deck. So what I do is start a combo, fill my switch gauge, switch, press the green card, switch, press the green card, and then switch. That's 3 switches in a matter of 2 timer counts. Very easy to do. And with that, you're reducing the enemy's draw speed as well, so they can't have large combo potential. But it's just beneficial for you because you're also building up your synchro. Another pro, I think their combo potential is really high. I like the fact that they're able to get a card every time they tag switch, and they also get a card every time they press the green card. A con I don't like about them is that I think both blue cards being long range pre-transform is super annoying. I think it hurts me more than not, and in general most characters would benefit from having a blue that is close range. We've seen with the likes of Super Vegeta, who has a long range ultimate, people thought it would be really hitting, but I think it's worse than not. It's not just the fact that it's long range, it's a slow type of long range one, so if I shoot it through a blast art, the person will probably still be able to vanish it as if it was a strike arts cancel or blast arts cancel or something like that. Sorry, I don't really like the long range blue cards. I think most people don't as well. If it was close range or at least a beam like a Kamehameha, it would guarantee a lot more hits. Let's go into Vegito. So post transformation, I think an obvious pro is the rising rush where you can't get picked. Just in general, having a rising rush where you can consistently win is actually cheesy, but I think this is only a pro in combination with the fact that if somebody switches while he's on the battlefield, he will get type neutral. If that wasn't a thing in his kit, in a lot of cases, if a green is full health, Vegito doesn't kill. It depends on your star difference between both characters, I find, but I found some instances where if a green is full health, especially Ultra Gohan or even the likes of Piacon Revival Gohan, these characters don't kill if Vegito is type disadvantaged. So that's something to note. He does get type neutrality permanently if his gauge is full, but that's only against the damage sustained, not offensively. So you have to be careful with the rush. Even though it is a guaranteed kill, there is no real con to that, or a guaranteed hit rather, I'd like to say. In most cases, it's going to kill. So I guess it's overall pro, but I want to talk about that niche scenario where you're rising rushing greens. A lot of people are going to use greens if Vegito is meta relevant, so it kind of just doubles down, you know. His green card giving him cover no is just one of the best things. If you can easily get cover no in this meta where everybody has cover no, not even this meta, this day and age where every single unit has cover no, it's super valuable. That is like top of the tiers of having a good unit, having easily accessible cover no. His ability to draw cards the minute he transforms is also good. So he's immediately going to get a card off transforming, but he also gets a card off entering the battlefield. So that's 2 cards off transforming into Vegito. I think a con in this guy's kit is that he's not very tanky as Vegito. It's not that he's not able to defend at all, but he's quite vulnerable, I find. He's easy to get rid of on the defensive end. He has nothing to protect him strongly that way. So even though he could be great offensively, especially with the rising rush farming, on the defensive side, he could be a liability. Another con you could say is that his gauge is a one-time thing. Once it fills, you get the benefits from it, whereas on the other end it could have been something else that's consistently filling, so you can get continuous benefits from it. Depending on how long a game goes, it might not be that useful to have the Vegito Dragon Ball gauge where it could have been something else. And another underrated factor, but this is going to be the last one as a pro, I think in general Vegito just seals blue cards, ultimates and awakens. That happens consistently throughout the game. That could easily break or make your game. Now, if I'm going to give my opinion on who I think is better, I did give some individual pros and cons for them, but the meta experience is a lot more different, I guess, when you actually put things out to test into the battlefield. On paper, things could look insane, but then actually using the units, it changes a lot depending on who is also in that environment. But I think straight off, I'm going to say Vegito is the better unit, but I've got multiple reasons for this, which I'm just about to explain. So I think the aim when using both of these units is to get into their fusion state, and the faster you do that, the better the unit. Vegito does that better, so that's definitely 1 point for him just in general. The pre-transformations are good good, of course, but the pre-transformation should not be the selling point. The selling point for both of these units is where their mechanics lie in their transformation, which is as Vegito and Gogeta. The Strike Assault versus the Rising Rush, guaranteed win. Now, if we compare the Strike Assault and the guaranteed win, the Rising Rush is just way better in general. Also, the things that come with it, because the kit is built around that. So Vegito is a Rising Rush farmer. He's going to get Rising Rushes consistently, taking out revivals, filling his gauge, just small things like that that easily allows him to just farm Rising Rushes, even his main ability, and I think when he transforms as well. That's just some of the things. If you're able to get Rising Rush quick and hit a Rising Rush and you can get a guaranteed hit, that's almost a guaranteed kill for pretty much 90% of scenarios. Whereas the Strike Assault, of course, it does allow you to avoid counters and whatnot, but it's not as consistent as you may seem. And then his kit basically becomes pretty little useless if you're not facing up against one of those guys. I do understand it gives you cover no, but at the end of the day, you're still having to work a lot more when you can just press one button and guarantee a kill. If we really chop it up, it's really incomparable. Now let's look at their elements. At first, I thought the yellow would actually be more valuable, but then looking at the team with the fact that Ultra Golden Frieza was being used a lot, I thought yellow would actually have the better standing. But come to see it now, blue is actually aging way better. People are using Ultra Super Saiyan 2 Gohan, but I think it's the addition of the Rising Rush that guarantees your kill that people are seeing that Vegito is actually more valuable. We do understand the Strike Assault is good, but we see people like UI Goku in the game who can also be used, Super Baby 2 that can also be used. A lot of people are taking to those units because Gogeta isn't the biggest offensive guy in the game. On most cases, if you're using him on a team, he's not going to be the #1 offensive guy as well. We've got Ultra Super Saiyan 2 Gohan on Sun Family. He's just way more aggressive in general with his explosive greens, counter, ultimate, etc. If we're looking at Ultra Golden Frieza, his combos are ridiculous, easy cover no, and he punishes you for punishing him because of his comeback ability. That's just like 2 examples on movies and Sun Family. Even if we look at Vegito being on any of his teams, Vegito is just offensively better in general, and you see that throughout the Rising Rush. So for those reasons, I also have to give another point to Vegito. In terms of a blue unit that you're running on the team, Vegito's going to be the best. But then just to put this icing on the cake, they decided to Zenkai CMZ, and I think that's almost going to be the nail in the coffin for Gogeta Blue. Zenkaiing that unit who's basically anti-Saiyan, he does insane damage, has an explosive green, and can pretty much lock you in. It's not safe for Gogeta Blue right now. He is tanky, but in most situations, he's not going to tank past that red. This is an extremely good Zenkai, a Legends Limited Zenkai, and he's causing a lot of problems. Whereas Vegito, I'm not saying he's unchecked, but there's only one guy that's really keeping him in check, and that's Ultra Super Saiyan 2 Gohan. In general, the circumstance is just built to favor Vegito. Even in an individual kit basis, Vegito's Rising Rush is just a way safer option, but then when you consider the meta as well, it just gets way worse for Gogeta, and it's really unfortunate. It's much easier to replace him as a yellow because he's playing a defensive role when he's meant to be an offensive unit, and not to say he's not good offensively, but I'd personally rather just have Ultra UI who can guarantee a lock-in if they try to save their friends and then hit the ultimate. Almost a guaranteed kill. I can also hit a Rising Rush in that circumstance, don't forget to. So I think it's just not fair for Gogeta Blue. It's kind of sad that he got put in this situation, but it just really is what it is. So in the most unbiased way, I think these are points you just can't negate. I'm not saying Gogeta Blue is bad, but the situation for him isn't good, and individually, Vegito really just stomps his kit. That's going to be the end of the video, man. Let me know what you guys think about my thoughts. It was originally close when they first released, and I think a lot of people in general are bigger Gogeta fans than Vegito, especially with the release of the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, especially the younger generation in general. Like, I'm talking guys that are younger than 16. A lot of those guys will be born into Gogeta Blue, so he's going to be their favorite, you know? So a lot of people will naturally summon for Gogeta, but I'm not saying any of these units are extremely far apart from each other, but the circumstance of the meta just doesn't help Gogeta's case at all. But that's all I've got to say for this video, man. Press the subscribe button. We're on this grind to 100,000 subscribers. I appreciate you guys for watching, man. My name's Zakashi, guys, and I'll see you guys in the next one, man.